So let's begin with just relaxing. Just relax in your chair, wherever you may be seated. Feel the base of your body up against your chair, and then let your seat sink. Let your feet feel connected and grounded, connected to the earth, so that all of my meditations are very grounding and weighted through the base of the body. So more or less we are descending into a sense of embodiment of who we are, rather than ascending out of the body to some other place. So the place of liberation is here, with whatever is here right now, and attending and allowing. So now close your eyes if you haven't already, and let's pay attention to the breathing for a moment. So let your breath come in gently through the nose and invite it into your body without any concern about the exhalation. Just let the breath flow out as it will naturally, without any need to direct it. And with every inhalation, see if you can deepen and widen your breath so that you can not only feel the breath expanding at the rib cage and the chest, but you also feel it behind the rib cage, behind the heart, to the back side of the body, so that any constriction or holding behind the heart can also soften and expand. And let the breath also flow down into the abdominal region, so you can feel the breath deep in your belly, widening and deepening, expanding at the hip carriage, engaging the energy at the base of your body, where there's so much life, so much vitality that often doesn't get tapped into. So with every inhalation, you're deepening and widening the breath in a very gentle, effortless way. So the posturing for this meditation is a engaged relaxation. So feeling how fully present you are already here and aware, noticing everything that's happening within you. So as soon as we close our physical eyes, our attention is going inside, and we've made a decision to not attend to external distractions for now. They may be there in your environment. You may have family members, work, neighborhood, all sorts of things in your external environment. Sounds of nature, traffic, everything that can be seen with the physical eyes. But here, we're allowing our physical eyes to have a pause. And we're tuning in to the inner life, the inner dimension of you. So now let that breath now return to its natural rhythm. It's a very slight little letting go and trusting that the breath will breathe your body without your help, as it always does, as the blood moves by itself. The muscles contract and relax all by themselves. So just let that happen and notice that the breath may be more deeply engaged now all by itself. Now, in the very same way that we can let the breath go and let the external stimulation be as it is, by turning our eyes inward, turning our attention inward, not necessarily our physical eyes. Our physical eyes are located in the space of the head, so let them just relax. Let all the muscles around the eyes relax. And notice sometimes when we close our eyes that there may be momentary feelings of fatigue. The eyes may be tired. The physical eyes actually use more oxygen than any other organ to function well. So it's actually really healthy and beneficial to give your eyes a break. Just let them relax. They're not necessary. So with this relaxation of the eyes, there's also a softening of seeking or looking with the eyes for something, whether it be something to make us happy, something to give us a sense of comfort or connection, as in another person or a place. We use the physical eyes in the external world, and often we have an interpretation about what it is that we see. And that interpretation gives it some sense of meaning. But what we're identifying through our physical eyes is form, objects. So when we perceive through the physical eyes, that's what we see, the world of form, the world of objects. And then what follows is the interpretation that we give to the world of form, the world of objects. So here, as soon as we decide to close the eyes and soften inside, we're opening to a completely different dimension of perceiving. So remember and check for yourself. that the physical eyes can rest and aren't necessary now, but that a different kind of seeing becomes available, a different way of perceiving. It's almost like a sensing and a wearing that wakes up. It's very natural to us and opens a wide view of you, the you that does not have a form, that is not an object of perception. Now, at first, when you begin to meditate, regardless of how long you've practiced, there are a variety of techniques that are introduced. I'm not here to evaluate any techniques, but I want to invite you to do simply one thing, and that is to suspend any techniques for now and simply be the noticing, be the perceiving of whatever is happening in you. Now you may notice thoughts that simply rise spontaneously within you. And if you simply notice without interjecting, without intercepting, without running any kind of commentary, we simply allow thought to rise, that it will also spontaneously fall. In this you can perceive the rising and falling of thought. You may notice that thought is simply a form. So allow it to be here without pushing it away, without asking it to be different, without trying to put another thought over top of it, but just being the perceiving of the movement of thought. And whenever a thought spontaneously arises in the space of the mind, there can be a habit of interpretation about the thought, the interpretation that gives it some meaning, some reality. It makes it feel very real, like it really means something about you, about your identity. So notice that. Notice that that interpreting comes out of a long history of conditioning. Thought is fully conditioned. especially the repetitive movement of thought. It's almost like it's a conditioned reflex that becomes a habit that is fueled by giving it attention. So let's see if we can relax the habitual reflex to hook into thought and just relax and be the perceiving. Like you have a wide lens of seeing behind the mind, before the mind, in between every thought that rises and falls. So just be the perceiving. And the mind will naturally open to a space of luminosity, of clarity, of feeling uncensored, without a narrative. And then whatever thought may arise in this luminosity may be there for your functionality. It may be a thought that serves some function rather than a thought that tries to give you some form, some sense, some security of identity. So perceiving and allowing. And feeling spaciousness that remains. Now, this capacity to see, to perceive the formless essence of you goes far beyond the mind, the space of the head. It's very much like your entire body is a perceiving vessel that notices everything and doesn't adhere, doesn't stick to any one thing. In this full allowance of perceiving, being the perceiving, the lens is very wide, the wide lens of noticing. I want to say something else before we move away from the space of the mind. Hmm. Is that as your spiritual eyes, this capacity to be the perceiving, as they open, continue to open, there may be a natural sense of a detoxing of habitual thought patterns. It's the mind emptying of its conditioned patterns. So when you sit together in meditation, either by yourself or here, let that toxicity rinse out. You may sometimes feel like a bit of a headache. Let that happen as the perceiving without a commentary, just giving space. You also may sometimes feel a sense of disorientation because your identity is shifting out of thought, away from conditioning, to this dimension of being that cannot be defined by any thought. The totality of you has no definition. So it's a space of not knowing, of letting yourself be a mystery. It's very freeing and much more interesting than being confined by the limitations of thought and the inevitable dramas that unfold through conditioning, through habit, through only perceiving life through the physical eyes of form and objectifying yourself to the limitations of form. You're not an object. You're not limited by any conditioning, no matter how negative or positive, destructive or traumatic. When you turn inside and become the perceiving, you find this aspect of you that has never been damaged, harmed, or broken in any way. We could call this the luminosity or the light of your being. that shines from the inside out. So let yourself have a very good feel for this, for being, perceiving, not that which is perceived. That which is perceived is continuously fluctuating, coming and going. But here, as this, you remain as the constant. So allow this perceiving to continue as it will by itself. It may be noticing another aspect of your being, perhaps the heart. Let that happen. Simply noticing without interpretation. Just with a natural, curious wonder. Gently investigating the nature of you around the heart. Allowing, allowing, allowing. And notice that as you allow yourself to simply perceive, to be the perceiving, that if there are aspects of you that feel closed or constricted, in this perceiving, which is so gentle, so kind, that aspects of you that may have been in hiding, closed off, or perhaps felt a sense of wounding, that they naturally open because there's no judgment, there's no interpretation. There's simply perceiving. This perceiving allows energy, sensations, opening, and in the perceiving, a natural kind of transmuting of energy can happen, so that may have felt hard or closed can feel open, soft. And you may notice that there's a delightfulness in softening and not labeling anything as right or wrong, should be here or should not be here. And we don't even have to label any emotional content that may be felt or sensed through this wide lens, perceiving. And in this way of allowing, once again, a natural kind of emotional detoxification can happen. Old suppressed energies, feelings can empty out, can be rinsed, clear, clean through your spiritual vision. It doesn't interpret, doesn't solidify anything into a identifiable form with a particular label that might mean something. Just doesn't happen. So feel the ease in allowing all to be as it is, in simply being the perceiving. You may feel your chest and torso and breastbone, even the rib cage. You may find a feeling of liftedness, expansion, openness, just very natural qualities of the heart to be uncongested, to be soft. Even in the backside of the heart, as you perceive there with a full sense of allowance. Any holding patterns can vaporize into mist. Just trickling away, not needed. Mm. The inner dimension of being around the heart is a wonderful place to explore. It's like a very wide and deep cavern of mystery, of endless connection to all things. It's that place or space, you could say, where we are all connected. We're all related. And here is an overflowing compassion for all things. It's a friendliness that cannot be acquired through the physical nature of the eyes or the body or any belief system. It's non-acquirable. It just is. And with it comes a contentment that knows no end. Now this openness of your spiritual eyes does not end at the heart. Perceives everywhere, every aspect of your inner being, including the belly, the gut, that great space carried by the hips, hip carriage, a territory of great stability. When seen, when perceived properly in this way, without a label, without an interpretation, out of the conditioned aspects of the mind. So allow perceiving, allow yourself to be the perceiving here. Simply noticing the width, the depth, the enormity of you at the base of the body. Wow, this is where your power is, your strength, your ability to anchor, ground here in this incarnation, in this life, in this body. As we perceive from here, it becomes very clear that your body is a sacred vessel for the life force of you to move. So here there's a fire. You simply perceive. Be the perceiving that opens feeling, that opens sensing, that opens opening. There's a fire here. Strong, courageous, very stabilizing. This is what we talk about when we talk about fully embodying your incarnation. It's almost as if, for lack of a better way to express, is where the spirit of your soul incarnates fully into the form of you. So spirit and soul are ignited as one movement, incarnating here in this body and connected to the oneness of all things, the universality of all life, the unity of life. There's little that can be said here without it becoming conceptual. So you have to perceive, be the perceiving from here, without concept, without interpretation, without labeling, just feeling, sensing, allowing what is here in this endeavor to incarnate this life fully, to be seated or to stand in your wholeness, undivided, unbroken, fully grounded here. Silent and engaged all at once. Actively giving of yourself and receptively reposing in yourself all at once. Be the perceiving, be the sensing, be the listening, perceiving what is natural to you, not as an object of perception, no, not at all, but as a shining potentiality. You may continue with eyes open or eyes closed. I'm just going to speak for a little bit now. Seemed like a lot was covered in that meditation. Um, and as I'm sure you've experienced that, the inner dimension of being can be spoken about and pointed at, yes, but it will always fall short. Any words, any description, any pointings will fall short of the capacity of your own inner direct experience. So I encourage you to listen in again and let this become a practice if you like, because it will continue to open more and more of your capacity to see and feel and experience reality as it is without the filters of the conditioned mind. Now, we all know what it's like to live out of our conditioning, to live out of a sense of understanding or interpretation that comes from how we identify or try to even disidentify with forms, with what we perceive through our physical eyes, which especially comes into play in our relating with each other in relationships, whether they be lovers, friends, family, society, just in general. There's all of the media is based on an interpretation of what a form is supposed to look like, what an image is supposed to look like, what a relationship is supposed to look like. I mean, especially what you are supposed to look like, what shape of your body should be, how smart you should be, how much you should accomplish, achieve, acquire, how much money you should earn, how many credentials and certificates, and those kinds of things that you should have for a career, what kind of house. So you see all of that is based on the worldly view of form, of objects, and then a myriad of interpretations are made on this. And what happens in our conditioning is we get fixated on different aspects of that, and we start to formulate an identity about who we are based on all of those interpretations. And what results? Suffering, a sense of feeling conflicted, not only on the outside, but of course on the inside. I mean, if you're not conflicted on the inside, there's not going to be an outer conflict. But if you're conflicted and feel divided on the inside, so you're having an inner argument with yourself, you have a lot of mind talk going on that is constantly critiquing, doubting, judging, minimizing, sabotaging, discrediting, all of those things. And then on the other side of it, trying to overcome it by polishing your persona, by improving the personality, by making something better, by fixing, by improving all the self-improvement programs. So I'm singing to the choir right here now because you already know all of this. So what I'm pointing at in the meditation is a way to get beneath it, a way not to get caught up in everything that creates disharmony, drama, fatigue, even mental illness, addictions, all kinds of suffering that comes out of believing what the mind is spitting out. And the mind will never be satisfied. It's kind of like a machine, that can't be fed enough. But it loves to be fed and it will demand to be fed, once it finds out how to trick you and hook you in. So you need to just go beneath it directly, just directly be the perceiving of it. And it's, feels complicated, and it can, because if you're paying attention, if you're trying to do it just with the mind, if you're trying to do it with your understanding, if you're trying to do it with a technique or a concept. So what you have to do is even trick yourself, first of all, by befriending the mind, having this openness that we spoke about, this very kind, gentle relaxation with yourself. And so soft that you can, just like the way we let go of the breath, that you can just let it go. And suddenly you're behind it. You're the perceiving of it. And that's all that is necessary. Then the door has opened. The door has then opened to your spiritual eyes, your spiritual vision, your great capacity to be the perceiving. So I don't really have more to say on that. Just go for direct experience. It's all that matters. I mean, I could talk and talk and talk, but it doesn't really mean anything. Follow the meditation and follow your deep knowing, and you will be fine.